He's comfortable. He's comfortable in his own skin. He's comfortable within his skill set. He's just done an amazing job of really his growth and his maturation into the division. That Uros Medic win is now, really looked great on his record. And I couldn't be happier for him, man. I'm so proud of him and what he's developing himself into.
The question, though, and you have a good point, is his durability. Because, DDP is an indestructible Australian fucking tank. He's a big dude and he can take a lot of punishment. Ken Strickland. So we'll find out. I think he can, and I think it makes for a great fight. I just think Strickland's game plan and what the questions that need to be answered are those first 3 rounds. Can he withstand the onslaught of Khamzat? If he can, the round 4 and 5 can get tricky for Khamzat. That's where Strickland really thrives, and what's that look like if we do get there? And that's why I hang my hat on, where I'm like, I think he has a better chance to beat him than DDP did. That's it. Could be totally wrong. Could be totally off. I'm telling you, Khamzat's the most impressive fight I've ever seen in training. What he did to these D1 and world champions is fucking mind-blowing. And he might go in there and fucking mollywop Strickland in the first round. Would not be surprised with either.
But I think Chimaev's just going to be too big, too strong. But I think Strickland will do better than DDP. I do. I think styles make fights. I think just because he beat him there, that's something that could happen. But yeah, I certainly think that that this is a fight that Chimaev will win. And I don't think I'm saying anything crazy here. And that's the way I'm going in this fight. So I guess I should say, I think most people are going to be picking Chimaev here. So if you are picking Strickland, tell me how you think he's going to win.
The showdown between Khamzat Chimaev and Sean Strickland has created a massive divide among fight fans and analysts, with no clear consensus on how this clash unfolds. Wrestling purists argue Chimaev's grappling dominance will dictate every moment, while others believe Strickland possesses the tools to completely shift the narrative. This uncertainty has sparked heated discussions across the MMA community, with respected voices offering conflicting predictions that only amplify the anticipation. The polarizing nature of this matchup has everyone questioning their initial assumptions, creating an atmosphere of genuine unpredictability that rarely surrounds high-profile bouts.
And he's really good at moving back away from shots and
circling out while
countering.
the hands are in your face.
Yeah,
too.
it's weird.
He also throws like looping shots on purpose sometimes. Like you would think it's bad technique, but he's like finding a way around your guard.
Yeah,
and he's catching you with weird stuff. And his fucking jab is on.
Michael Bisping acknowledges Chimaev's undefeated record and freakish physical strength, emphasizing his elite wrestling credentials and knockout power that can end fights instantly. However, Bisping refuses to crown him invincible, referencing the controversial decision in his previous outing that left many questioning the outcome and exposed potential vulnerabilities under sustained pressure. His analysis then pivots to Strickland's recent evolution, noting a more aggressive approach and strategic refinements that caught observers off guard. Bisping credits Sean's improved power application and tactical adjustments as factors that could narrow the gap significantly, suggesting this encounter might be far more competitive than initial assessments indicated.
Strickland might just be the last dude in America that you want to threaten. Because, let's be honest, a former middleweight champion and a guy that's got a really good shot. And we'll get into the matchup in just a second. A guy that's got a shot at beating Khamzat Chimaev and being the first person to ever do it, right? But he's saying, come and see me. You know Sean Strickland's packing 100%. He's not that stupid, right? Anyone comes to his house, he's got the guns. We've seen the videos, right? He was down there, he had a piece, and he was like, come on then, come and see me, bro, come at me. And then, of course, he talks about the Paulo Costa incident.
I have a beef with Chimaev. I call him Gourmet Chain. I'd like to fight him.
Where there was a little bit of a thing at the Apex or the Performance Institute, and
what? Did you say you want to fight me out?
You want to fight me?
No, I said, do you said anything?
I want to fight you. You want to fight
you know, I don't think Khamzat was being held back by his people. I don't think Khamzat was scared to go and talk to Paulo Costa. And I'll tell you something, I don't think Khamzat is scared of anyone on the planet, right?
Bisping concludes his assessment without committing to a definitive outcome, maintaining analytical balance while acknowledging Strickland's proven ability against elite competition and his mental fortitude under championship pressure. He particularly respects Sean's straightforward approach to combat and communication, appreciating the authenticity and simplicity of his mindset heading into battle. Despite recognizing Chimaev's early advantages through superior strength and wrestling pressure, Bisping identifies this as a genuinely hazardous assignment for the undefeated contender. His final verdict leans toward Chimaev securing victory, while acknowledging the legitimate dangers Strickland presents throughout the encounter.
For Khamzat to take down, I do think he will get him down because Khamzat's wrestling is next level. But as I said, the jiu-jitsu of Sean Strickland is very, very tricky. It's creative. He believes in himself. He's got his mojo back after beating Fluffy Hernandez. He's been at the top of the game for a long time. He's beat people like Nazardine Imavov. That's not an easy thing to do. Put a beat down on Abus Magomedov. And coming into this one, he's like, bro, you want to go out there and talk all of this shit and make out like you're going to threaten me and come to my house and kill me? That's fine. I'll see you in the octagon, okay? Sean Strickland doesn't walk around with a massive entourage. He doesn't, and I respect that about him. You don't need an entourage. You don't even need a bunch of coaches. It's just Sean, Eric Nixick, and a bunch of people that he spars with. Most of the time, he's always dressed the same. He's always got a white t-shirt on and a pair of jeans, right?
Your nuts are probably full gray, dude. How much TRT are you on, dude? Relax.
Enough to put you in your place. Don't worry about it.
He's a simple man that fights his goddamn ass off, talks his mind, which you've got to respect. At least you know where you stand with Sean Strickland. The man's not.
Eric Nixick reveals the strategic blueprint, emphasizing the critical importance of the opening rounds and Sean's need to remain composed rather than engaging in reckless exchanges. Their game plan centers on neutralizing Chimaev's explosive starts while avoiding easy takedown opportunities and power shots that could shift momentum decisively. Nixick's confidence grows when discussing the championship rounds, where he anticipates Sean taking control as the accumulated damage and fatigue begin affecting his opponent. The strategy involves systematically breaking down Chimaev's conditioning over time, creating opportunities for Sean to implement his own offensive system once the pace becomes manageable.
By the end of the second round or something like that. So minimizing risk, but also allowing your guy to do what he does really well, and that's put pressure on people. But doing it smartly. You know, you don't want to overthrow, you don't want to be keeping yourself off balance, because that's where Khamzat does a very good job of making his connections. So keeping him calm and cool, certainly in the first couple rounds, is going to be very important. And then once we can start taxing Khamzat later in the later rounds, if it gets that far, then that's where I feel like Sean can start opening up and applying his game plan.
Nixick's breakdown of Chimaev reveals deep respect for his seamless transitions between striking and grappling, particularly his unpredictable level changes that keep opponents constantly reacting. He warns against traditional defensive responses like underhooks, explaining how Chimaev weaponizes these positions to create dominant positions or land devastating overhand strikes. According to Nixick, success against Chimaev requires surgical precision and calculated decision-making, rather than relying solely on heart and determination. One momentary lapse in judgment or technique provides Chimaev the opening he needs to seize complete control of the fight.
I think you're looking for tendencies within his striking. I said this numerous times because I've got to hold pads for him. He's very good at blending his level changes into his striking and his wrestling. And I think that, to me, is something you have to be very aware of. Is, you know, guys tend to underhook. And when you underhook, you're automatically making an attachment. You're inviting him to go chest to chest with you. So there's a couple layers of defense that I think we have to get ahead of. I don't want to put out there, but then you also can't be committed to dropping underhooks, because that's going to set up his overhand without you allowing yourself to have a lead arm defense. So there's a lot of things I think that we have to make sure that we're shoring up. And then also just the pace and the cardio that we're expecting him to be able to have. You know, obviously going out to California and working with Coach Cal, I think that's a great addition to his camp and his team. So how do we combat that, and how do we counteract that new element of cardio that he's bringing to the table?
Jon Anik embraces the drama surrounding major fights, believing genuine animosity between competitors elevates the stakes and creates electric atmospheres reminiscent of the Usman-Covington rivalry. While acknowledging the promotional theatrics, Anik identifies Chimaev as one of the sport's most compelling attractions, capable of delivering either explosive finishes like the Whitaker destruction or grinding wars similar to the Burns Classic. His prediction dismisses the mental warfare aspect entirely, viewing both fighters as psychologically bulletproof competitors who won't crack under pressure or succumb to mind games. Anik anticipates the outcome will be determined by Chimaev's wrestling implementation, expecting immediate takedown attempts and ground control from the opening bell.
Yeah, you're wise to acknowledge Nassourdini Mavov. I know he had the head-to-head loss against Sean Strickland, but on merit deserves a title shot, and it seems as though he will wait. I think a lot of the preamble leading up to Chimaev versus Strickland really is much ado about nothing, because they're both mental giants in my mind. And Sean Strickland would probably tell you there was a time where he wasn't as mentally fortified and forged as he is right now. Khamzat Chimaev, in our first fighter meeting, we haven't had all that many fighter meetings with him of late, but he even said back then, like, I want a war. Before he had the war against Gilbert Burns, that's what Khamzat Chimaev wanted. These guys are built for this. They're built different. They're made for this. Whatever trite phraseology you want to use, I just think that anything that happens hyperbolically leading up to the fight is going to be fun. It's going to be promotionally electric. But I do think, to your point, it comes down to the martial arts and how Sean Strickland is going to be able to hold up in the wrestling and grappling world, where Khamzat Chimaev theoretically will want to take this fight with immediacy.
Brendan Schaub directly addresses concerns about Strickland's chances against Chimaev's overwhelming pressure, acknowledging the legitimate worries stemming from his dominant performances against previous opponents. However, Schaub argues that Strickland's underrated ground game could prove more significant than anticipated, suggesting his grappling defense and scrambling ability might surprise those who've overlooked this aspect of his skill set. While recognizing the validity of these concerns, Schaub believes Sean's mat work could become a crucial factor if the fight reaches the championship rounds, where his conditioning advantages typically emerge.
Fan question, be honest, what really makes you think Strickland can even come close to winning? Because from what I saw with Khamzat versus DDP, I see the same thing happening with Strickland, just more violent. You might be right, brother. Yeah, you might be right. You might be right. I think Strickland has a better ground game and has a better chance of getting back to his feet. And I don't think Strickland is going to sit there and let him crucifix him and do nothing. But to your point, I do think Khamzat heard the criticism, so he's going to be looking for finishes, and he's going to be a lot more violent on the ground. But I just think over 5 rounds, over 25 minutes, Strickland has the willpower, the skill set to get up in certain
Schaub's long-term analysis favors Strickland's championship round capabilities, highlighting his exceptional durability and cardiovascular conditioning as potential game-changers in extended battles. He credits Sean's ability to maintain or even increase his output in the later stages, contrasting this with questions about Chimaev's 5-round sustainability under sustained pressure. The critical unknown remains whether Strickland can weather Chimaev's early assault and reach those championship rounds where his advantages become pronounced. Schaub views rounds 4 and 5 as Sean's domain, where his relentless pace and accumulated damage could overwhelm a potentially fatiguing opponent.
He's going to get taken down. I think it's going to be very tough to finish on the ground. I think he's more savvy on the ground, and I think his cardio is definitely better than Khamzat's and better than DDP's. The question, though, and you have a good point, is his durability. Because, DDP's an indestructible Australian fucking tank. He's a big dude and can take a lot of punishment. Can Strickland? So we'll find out. I think he can, and I think it makes for a great fight. I just think Strickland's game plan and what the questions that need to be answered are those first 3 rounds. Can he withstand the onslaught of Khamzat? If he can, the round 4 and 5 can get tricky for Khamzat. That's where Strickland really thrives, and what's that look like if we do get there? And that's why I hang my hat on, where I'm like, I think he has a better chance to beat him than DDP did. That's it. Could be.
James Lynch selects Chimaev while rejecting the narrative of easy domination, arguing against expectations of a straightforward submission victory. He cites Chimaev's inability to submit Dricus du Plessis as evidence that finishing Sean Strickland won't be automatic, especially considering Sean's solid defensive grappling and scrambling abilities. This analysis leads Lynch to consider the possibility of a longer fight than many anticipate, potentially favoring Strickland's decision-winning capabilities if he survives the early dangers. His assessment suggests the fight's outcome depends more on endurance and accumulated damage than explosive finishing sequences.
I don't think Sean Strickland will have lightning strike twice. Of course, he got that big upset over Israel Adesanya a couple years ago. I think Chimaev's going to win. However, I don't think he's going to finish Strickland. We looked at the fan voting here. Majority of fans do feel it'll be by submission. He's fighting a guy in Sean Strickland who has never been submitted in his career. And you look at all the fights he's had, 37 total. I don't know if Chimaev will be able to do it. We'll see, though. because he wasn't able to submit DDP. We'll see how Strickland's submission defense is, but I think it'll be a little bit better. So a couple of reasons why I think decision and not finish. Let's go with this. Like I mentioned there, Strickland never been submitted in 37 career fights. He's got 76% takedown defense, so I think his takedown defense will be better than what we saw against DDP. Although saying that, Chimaev did make DDP look really average, and DDP obviously, or below average, I should say, and DDP obviously beat Strickland twice. Strickland's been knocked out 2 times. The first one, so knockout could happen too, right? People could say knockout. We do have some people picking knockout, just 5% saying knockout. That might happen. Strickland has been knocked out before, but a little bit of context helps, right? So one of his knockout losses was against Lesky dos Santos. It was a spinning heel kick and punches. It was a TKO finish. And also keep in mind how much weight Strickland was cutting at 170. I think he was a little bit more susceptible to getting knocked out by that.
Lynch challenges the knockout narrative surrounding Strickland's chin, providing context for his previous stoppages that many analysts ignore in their assessments. He explains that the spinning heel kick knockout represents a rare occurrence rather than evidence of vulnerability, while the Pereira loss came against the sport's most dangerous striker in a tactical mistake rather than pure defensive failure. Lynch doesn't place Chimaev in the same knockout artist category as Pereira, suggesting different dynamics will govern this encounter. His analysis implies that smarter tactical decisions from Strickland could produce dramatically different results than his previous setbacks.
Knockout loss was Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira's knocking out everyone. I don't really put Chimaev in the same category as Pereira with knockout power. Maybe we could make that argument, but Strickland had just a terrible game plan in that fight, trying to strike with a former glory kickboxer champion. So don't know if that'll happen either. So that's another reason why I'm leaning submission. Chimaev has gone the distance in 3 of his last 5 fights. Let's not forget about that. As great as he looked in that last fight, that was also a decision. He did finish Whitaker, but Usman was a decision. Holland's been submitted a handful of times, and he also went the distance with Burns. So yeah, 3 of his last 5, he has gone the distance. Strickland, I don't think will submit him, and he likely won't knock him out. Strickland did get a TKO win in his last fight, but it's not really typical for Strickland. He himself, if you look at his last 5 fights, only got 1 finish there. If you want to go in his last 6, he's only got 2 finishes in his last 6 fights. That's not a good ratio for him to finish Chimaev. So, I don't really see, you're almost banking on a Strickland decision if he was to win, and I just don't know if that's going to happen here. Again, Chimaev, very strong, very active, very fast. We know he's got the cardio now to go 5 rounds.
This contest ultimately hinges on whoever establishes their preferred rhythm first and maintains that control throughout the battle. Chimaev's early takedowns and pace setting could create the foundation for sustained dominance, while Strickland's ability to return to his feet and force later round scenarios could completely flip the script. The widespread disagreement among experts reflects the genuine uncertainty surrounding this matchup, where small moments and strategic decisions could determine the outcome rather than overwhelming advantages. The fight's resolution remains genuinely unpredictable, with compelling arguments supporting both fighters' paths to victory depending on how the action unfolds inside the octagon.